Hello and welcome to Data Planet. I'm Emma Davis, and our guest today is Ritvij Gautam, head of growth and product marketing at Glen Coco. Welcome, Ritvij.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Emma.
So let's start by getting something really important out of the way. I want to confirm for my listeners that your company's name is, in fact, a Mean Girls reference, which was my first question to you when I met you.
Yes, it is. It is most definitely a Mean Girls reference. The credit goes to Ingwan, who's CEO of Glencoco. He's a big Mean Girls fan, and yeah, it was a Mean Girls reference for sure.
Yeah, excellent. So, what does Mean Girls and Glen Coco have to do with what you guys do?
Oh man, I wish I wish there was like an actual like larger metaphysical connection. It was just like we were like, hey, what's a name that's kind of like a subvertive cult classic for, for I guess like the new generation of sales directors and buyers. It's like just it's like a bunch of millennials, like older millennials, and they're like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, man, Mean Girls is amazing." So
And also the, like, "Let's get it." Like,
yeah,
"You
yeah,
go,
yeah,
Glen Coco." Yeah.
and so I think it's a bit of that, and then also it's like, the name has some like popularity, and but it was like an underserved domain, so it was just an opportunity, I think,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, but.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I love it. It made me smile. Um, okay, so now that we have that covered, which phew, get that
Yeah.
right out of the way. So what do you do at Glen Coco, or what does Glen Coco do? Who are your customers,
Yeah,
and
so
what do you help them with?
I mean, so Glencoco, what we've built is kind of like Uber for B2B sales or like DoorDash for deals is one way to think about it.
Uh-huh.
Um, like an unsexier description is probably like Upwork for sales, which is just like, it's like a verticalized Upwork, if you will.
Mhm.
Right. And the core of it is this notion that um, you know, it's really hard to build. It's really hard to build sales teams in house, like outbound sales teams. It's just a tough bet, and the
Mhm.
reason why is because average lifespan of an SDR in seat is about 6 to 9 months, and you have to like spend a protracted time like hiring somebody. Then you put them in seat, and then after you have them in seat, it's going to take you 90 days to train them up because you have to train them up like they're one day going to become AEs, even though that's not true for most SDRs, right? And then after that, you have like the tech overhead. You're buying annual seat licenses for your CRM, for your dialer, if these guys are doing cold calling, for your email tool, so on and so forth. And then you have like a RevOps overhead of having all of these tools work together.
Mhm.
Let's say you nail all of these things and you've actually set up the architecture correctly. At the end of the 90 days of ramp, this guy might not produce for you,
Right.
right? And so in those cases, you're typically like shuffling the team. You're going back to square one. And even if someone does produce for you, the average lifespan of an SDR in seat is 6 to 9 months because most SDRs don't want to stay SDRs forever, right? And they're kind of like, and there's just high volatility to the role in general. So what ends up happening is companies are kind of forced to repeatedly hire into this role. So what we did is we turned it into a marketplace where, and this is where like the Uber element comes in. One side of our marketplace customers can come on and say, hey, look, this is my ICP as defined by size, industry, like, need and pain point, core titles. And so this is my ICP. And then we make a recommendation to them as to price per meeting. And then on the other side of the marketplace, we have a network of fractional sales reps. And all of these guys are vetted as having had B2B sales experience. And what they do is they would train up on a customer's campaign on like how to pitch the meeting, right? The goal is not to have these guys like do one call closes. It's to like pitch the meeting and qualify the lead. Like give them enough training to do that. Let them audition on the campaign and then they leverage our tech. We've built our own dialer, email copilot, and CRM. And they're all like AI enabled tooling that just makes reps way more efficient. And then these reps leverage our tech to prospect to our customers' leads and book meetings for them. And our customers pay per qualified meeting. So they pay when we actually get someone to show up and they meet the qualification criteria. Yeah.
And do they set specific prices? They have different prices that they'll pay for qualified meetings depending on,
Yeah.
the
So
individual customer? Like, how is that
that's
how
a
is that
that's a good
from the
question, right?
customer perspective?
What ultimately scales meeting price? I mean, it's a marketplace, so there's people that have listed for a wide range of meetings. The lowest price per meeting that someone can list on Glencoco for is like $1,000 per meeting.
Mhm.
And right now, the average meeting price is kind of at the $1,500 per meeting mark. And so we have customers paying anywhere from like 1250 per meeting to like $2,500,
Mhm.
$3,000 per meeting, right?
Okay.
And everything in between. Um, and and so the price is determined by how large the customer's deal size is, right? So it's like, hey, do you have like a 150K deal or like a 50K deal, right? Like
Yeah.
what's your average deal size? What is your close rates, right? So what's it worth to you, right? Like
Yep.
if I get you 10 meetings with this guy, like how many of those are you closing, right? And that gives you like an expected value. And then we work on that to figure out like, hey, what's a meeting price that they could pay for per meeting that makes it compelling for callers, right? Because the math that the callers are doing is, hey man, I'm going to work this on a pay per performance basis. So is the juice worth the squeeze,
Yep.
right? Is the time I put into it worth the squeeze? So I guess Glen Coco kind of has to play this intermediary like SEC like role in
Mhm.
in between. And so we kind of make the market. We help like we're able to negotiate good pricing for callers, and we're also able to make customers feel comfortable like with this pricing, right?
Nice.
The way I think about it is like it would have been a very sketchy transaction for like someone to pay somebody to sleep at their house like 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And like now it's like a business, right? And the reason why is because like Airbnb was able to bring in the structure or like whatever Verbo brought in the structure, but like that's kind of the thing, right? Like we've built enough trust on the marketplace to allow companies and callers and salespeople to transact in a way that's not full-time employment. And like our thesis is like full-time employment for this volatile role is actually a bad way to do it.
Mm.
And this is a more effective way that lets callers make more money and has like customers spending their capital more efficiently.
Got it,
Yeah.
because you're not paying salary for someone who, like, this is our down season, we don't have a lot of activity or not a lot of,
Yeah.
leads to go off of or whatever, and then from the SDR's perspective, they can, like, "Well, I'm not pigeonholed into just this one company and their needs, I can sort of pick and choose where there's availability and how
Exactly.
much I wanna work."
Right.
Very cool.
Like the top rep on Glen Coco took down like I think it was like 12K last month calling part-time, right,
Wow.
on Glencoco. So that's like real money, right? Like
Yeah.
it's um and it's feasible because like I think our tech and our marketplace brings in like this accelerating factor. And that's the thesis. So that's how Glencoco works. It's paper meetings, right? So the concept is simple, but like what makes it viable is like we've really tried to sort of solve this execution, like the RevOps dynamic and trust of marketplace to allow this kind of transaction to occur. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And then just to define a couple of the initialisms you threw out there for people not super familiar with sales stuff. So, SDR, sales development representatives, those are
Yes.
folks usually doing, what you described Glen Coco doing. They're helping to qualify those initial conversations, to
Yeah.
bring those to an AE, account executive, to
Yes.
then own that relationship, figure out how to customize the offering to what that customer actually needs, and ultimately get that to close. Is that I'm getting
Yeah,
that?
that's right. So SDRs or BDRs are like I mean, you can have inbound SDRs as well as outbound SDRs, but typically, like what they're doing is they're going out. Like in this case, like they're going out and trying to find people. They have like an idea of who the right persona is, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, I need to talk to a CISO at an enterprise company that has at least you know 2,000 endpoints and is probably using CrowdStrike. Okay, I found these guys on wherever, LinkedIn, I have their email addresses, I have their phone numbers. I need to try to like generate enough interest and see if they're in the right pocket, right? Like, do they actually have the right number of endpoints? Is this guy the decision maker? And then find that guy, get him interested in what I have to say, like, and then bring him to a meeting with the team. And that's
Got
it.
it.
Like, that's where the SDR's responsibility ends, right? And then the AE or the account executive, they're like your closers. So they come in and they're like, okay, hey, you are someone that now the SDR is pre-qualified. They've said that this person is, you know, I know that this guy is someone that I could sell, who could be a buyer of my product, right?
Mhm.
And does in fact have the signals that suggest that they have the problem that I
Yeah.
solve.
They check the
Then the
boxes
AE is
that
like,
that
hey,
you
let
gave
me
me.
talk to you about how I can solve it for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
And you mentioned the price that your customers are willing to pay for the qualified meetings, as well as, what their revenue. So you threw out there like, is that deal worth 50,000 or 150,000? So
Yeah.
obviously this isn't a service that's geared towards any type of like widget sales team. So who are your ideal customers? You mentioned the ICPs of
Yeah.
your client base, but
That-
who are your
That's a
ideal
great
customers?
question. Our customers are, yeah, you're absolutely right. Right. Like the unit economics of like the reason why cold calling is harder is because it just takes more effort to like bring into being, right? Like
Hmm.
I can spin up email servers, I can send emails, I can spin up automation tools, send LinkedIn automation messages. I can do these kinds of things at scale. But like calling is, I can call at scale, but like it's manual effort of like having conversations.
Yeah.
And it's always like the more expensive channel to spin up, right? But the reason you do this is because like anytime you actually hit and get a bite, you're shooting so close to the guy that can actually make the decision to purchase, you accelerate deal cycles that way,
Hmm. Yep.
right? Our ideal customers are like chief revenue officers, VPs of biz dev, directors of sales, VPs of growth and demand gen. But any company that has an enterprise SaaS product or enterprise enabled services, like we're also selling like financial services, like fractional CFO services and things like that.
Hmm.
And anyone who's got basically a product that is B2B and has an average deal size that is north of $30,000 a year, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And we found like that's where the unit economics make sense for the meeting price. Like, if you're in that boat, like the customers who are happiest with us are like, I'm talking to heads of sales that are like, look, I have a team of unbelievable closers, and I know exactly who I need to get these guys in front of. I know how we close. So
Yeah.
every time I meet with 10 CISOs with 2,000 endpoints, I know my AE team, statistically speaking, is going to create 6 opportunities and close at least 3 or 2. Right?
Hmm.
So that's like the sales funnel. So
Yeah.
they know that this is the case, and they're like, okay, my average deal size is 30K a pop, right? So I'm happy to pay like $1,500 per meeting because every time I spend 15 grand to meet with 10 people, I know my sales team is going to be creating a total pipeline of at least like 180K, and
Hmm.
then like worst case scenario expected close value even conservatively is going to be you know whatever 60K. So it's something that I can like, it's like I can pay, and I know I just need to feed my sales guys, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the customer. So usually, so the markers for us are like, hey, they're like series A, series B. They're hiring a sales team, they have the mandate to scale, right? We're a very expensive way to figure out whether or not you have product market fit. Like that's a bad fit customer, right? Because it's the same reason you wouldn't hire like a bunch of SDRs before you could figure out like, hey, do you know who you want to sell to, right?
Hmm.
And so it's the same sort of rules apply here. And so yeah, I think as a result, the my ideal customer is like a outbound sales, the person who's the stakeholder for outbound sales and pipeline generation generally.
Hmm.
And the pain that they have is they're usually like this is every SDR manager's pain. Like I've built a sales team myself before in like previous company, and it's just it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard job. It's brutal. It's a brutal role. And so they're like, hey, we need consistent pipeline scaling, and I just don't want to deal with the complexity of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the commitment, not knowing if that's going to work.
Yeah.
So,
And,
yeah.
and and it also doesn't go away, right? Like this is not a problem that I think obviates itself at scale. Like it just hurts less at
Hmm.
scale, but like, you know, it at some point you're gonna want more outbound meetings from your outbound team than the existing heads are capable of physically producing, right? Even if you max out all the efficiency, and then you're again like for your N+1 meeting, you need to hire and you need to train and you got
Yeah.
to and then and the thing is you're also like maintaining this workforce because it has this natural high churn nature to it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a problem that exists at every stage, and it's just customers that are sort of in that pocket being like, hey, I need to expand pipeline. That's
Nice.
that's who that's who we look for. Yeah.
Nice. All right. I know just who a few of my clients come to mind in that conversation. All right, time to put you in the hot seat. So, you recently posted on your LinkedIn, people don't want to be sold to is the refrain of people who sell shittily. And first off, how dare you? No. So, I just wanted to talk with you about uh like what's behind that post? Do people want to be sold to?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I tend to wax poetic about this,
Mhm.
but I truly think like sales is like an activity that's the point of it is like trust, right? And this is not like sale sale as conflated with like just purchasing something, right? Like I
Mhm.
think making purchases is now like a distinct thing from like something being sold to you, right?
Mhm.
Like in I think the nature of sales, especially like B2B, what I'm talking about is like B2B enterprise sales,
Mhm.
like 50 grand, 100K, like you're like large amounts of money are being moved around, and you want trust. Like the underpinning of that is trust. So I think I and so I think like when someone is in the market for something, like being sold to feels unbelievable, right?
Mm.
Like it's like when someone catches you at the right place, the right time with the solution. Like I've been an economic buyer of multiple tools, right? Like
Mhm.
I've bought LinkedIn sequencing tools, and I've been the customer of data providers, and I've been the you know and it feels amazing when like someone's like, hey man, I've got the thing that can solve your problem, right? Because that's it. Like what any of us are doing in our roles are like, hey, here's a set of roadblocks I need to tackle to unlock more scale, right?
Mhm.
Of some nature, like either build like build more leads, get more revenue, get more like something. We're in service of this thing,
Yeah.
and eventually you're like, okay, I need tools to like fix this, or I need services to like I need expertise to come fix this because I can't do it all my own, right?
Yeah.
And just finding me at that time, finding being found at that time feels great, and it's so yeah. What is the game? The game is hey, you need to kind of learn how to read the tea leaves, right? Like you need to know how to like put your ear to the ground and feel out like, hey, these are the things that like here's the signals like these this is what you work backwards from like what you solve and then like what that pain feels like and then you're like how does that pain manifest, you're like a diagnostician, right? You're like
Yeah.
you know for me for example it's like it's not that like nuanced, it's just like hey, are they hiring SDRs, right? Do they have open SDR job postings?
Yeah.
Has a VP of biz dev been hired in the last like have they been hired in the last 90 days?
Mhm.
uh Clear signal, right? That like this guy is probably coming in to a team and he's gonna shake things up invariably, and there's going to be a gap in pipeline demand, right? So
Mhm.
it's just so those are like simple signals, but they can get more and more esoteric, right? Like they can get
Mhm.
you could be looking at like, hey, did they decide in their board meeting that they want to expand like AI adoption and this thing and like so the information is out there and so and just like being able to synthesize that and find the right people, then absolutely those people want to be sold to by you.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's like the people who don't want to be sold to, you shouldn't be like ideally.
Trying to sell to them anyways. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I never want to sell to someone who doesn't want to be sold to, right? So most of my sales calls, it's almost like, uh, and this is what I think anyone should be. Is it's just like not immediately like doing the dog and pony show, right?
Yeah.
It's like just having an honest chat about men, like, hey, what are you looking for? And and like, can I help you out? And if I can't, I'll just be like, no, man, like, sorry, I don't think we can help you out.
Best of luck. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like, if you're able to do it that way, then I think you'll always sales are always welcome. It's just no one wants to just be sold to without.
Something they don't want or
Yeah.
need or where they don't feel understood. Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you for the clarification and for, withstanding that. Um, okay, my last question for you. So I've worked with bootstrap companies, venture funded companies, but I've never worked on the inside of, an exciting bootstrapped SaaS company or a venture
Yeah.
funded company. Which one is more fun? What are the pros and cons of bootstrapping versus being venture funded?
Um, different things, right? Like I'd say the thing with bootstrapping, obviously, the financial incentives are different. Like when you're bootstrapped, like
Mhm,
you own all of it, right?
mhm,
And as a result, you're not really answerable to anybody, right?
mhm,
So you can do like crazier stuff that you're not like having to justify to anyone. Not that like venture boards are like super restrictive in what they allow you to do. That's not my point. But like in general, when it's just when everything is yours, you can like do whatever you want,
Yeah,
right?
you can assess risk for yourself instead of having to take other
Exactly.
people's risk into account.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And that's like one of the pros of bootstrapping. Then of course, like if you bootstrap something to like a reasonable size and you exit it, you can have like a much more lucrative outcome than even if you like venture scale something to a crazy size and exit it,
Yeah,
right? Because again, you own like 80, like whatever, north of an 85 to like 90% of the company if you've
mhm,
let like some friends and family invest or something, right? Like
yeah,
otherwise you own like all of it. Um, so I think that's like the pro of bootstrapping. The con obviously is like, hey, you don't have a war chest. And this is where like
yeah,
venture funding is cool because it's like, hey, you actually can make sizable bets because some bets take a certain amount of size, right? Like
yeah,
you need to if I'm for example, if I'm building an in-house sales team, if I decide that that's what I have to do, right? There's like a nominal investment in that I have to make that if I'm bootstrapped and like eating what I make month over month, I need to make more money first before I can free up capital to
yeah,
afford this, right? Like,
yeah,
so it's the way you make decisions about acquiring resources or like investing in technology and stuff. Like, it just your decision making matrix is fundamentally different.
yeah, yeah, totally. I
Um,
I I love the way you talk about that. Like, our bootstrap SaaS clients, we talk all the time about like, you're placing bets and what's your how sensitive are you to that? And,
yeah.
without fail, our bootstrap clients, they need the most patience in order to see how things will play out, but it's
Mhm.
way more painful waiting to see how things will play out because it feels like,
Yeah.
I'm in SaaS. I want to move quickly, I want to grow, but also I can't put all my chips down on this one thing and just hope for the best because I can't afford to lose everything on this bet. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's
I can tell you like a very specific story, right? Like,
yeah.
when my previous it was like Trimata usability testing tool, we got approached by a company at the time. Um, they were called Blockstacks. They were like a crypto company,
Mhm.
and they were building like a decentralized internet. So if you've seen Silicon Valley, like the HBO show, like
Yep.
these
Yep.
guys were like consultants on that show, and they were
Okay.
actually trying to build a thing, right? And it was like using the blockchain, and the way you mined their tokens was like you developed apps like called dApps, like decentralized apps on their network, and that was
Okay.
what they did. And they came and they were like, okay, how do we make sure that only meaningful apps are getting rewarded cryptocurrency and like, people
Mhm.
aren't just building junk apps and then we're just paying them out, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we need to judge them. And they're like, well, how do you judge an app? Right? It's like, okay, you judge its popularity, its appeal, and then you got to judge its UX, right? And then that's kind of when they came over to us and we were selling like usability testing. And this is where like I was working on some research at the time about um, how do you assess adoption likelihood, right? Like not just usability. Like it's not enough that something is usable. Like there's
Mhm.
more factors that go into you deciding, like, hey, I want this instead,
Yep.
right? And how do you like decode that behaviorally? Like, what's a set of questions I can ask you to figure out if you're likely to use this thing,
Yep.
right? That was kind of that. Like, that was kind of what I was working on, and it was just an opportunity for me, so I was like, "Hey, guys, you should use this rubric to judge them." And then they had, like, hundreds upon hundreds of dabs, and then, again, the crazy thing we did was they were like, "Look, we could either pay you, like, 20K a month in cash, or we can pay you 10K a month in cash and an additional 20K in coin, like crypto, our crypto token." And this was like before, like well before block, like,
Yep.
there's something like a stable coin. Like this is well before all of that.
Yep.
Right. So it was like, it was weird. And I was like, yeah, sure, dude. And there's no way I'd make that decision like in a venture company, right? Like, but we made it, and we actually like netted positive on that. Like
Paid off.
somehow, like
Nice.
the token became popular in South Korea. We're able to sell it, and like we flipped it for like an additional $300,000, right? And now that's like a crazy story, but that's only ever going to happen in the bootstrap world. Like
Yep.
that's not happening in the venture funded world,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But yeah, so that's kind of the difference, I'd say. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Well, Ritvij, thank you so much for talking to me and for, telling me about Glen Coco, telling me a bit about your story. If anybody wants to know more about Ritvij and Glen Coco, details are in the show notes. Otherwise, thank you for being our guest. And thank you so much, listeners, for listening to Data Planet.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Take care and have a nice day.
All right, you too. Bye bye.